What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for October 30th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy hump day to everyone out there. And look, before we get into everything, I wasn't even going to mention this, but I am pissed off today. And it has nothing to do with Philly sports directly. And this is somehow going to turn into a long rant, probably a ramble, but more of a vent session, maybe a job interview while I'm at it. But a little fireside chat here with Jimbo today. And I'm pissed off because I put a lot of work and effort into this podcast. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've been doing this now for over 3 years. But a lot of thought and effort went into creating this podcast. And if you're an OG member, you remember it started off, I had a weekly podcast, Back to the Future, where I kind of took a deeper dive. Started off with a what if premise. And I realized there were so many different ways. And then it grew into This Day in Philly Sports History. And even then, I realized that there was limitations with what you could do. Those early podcasts were like 2 to 5 minutes. It was like, boom, this is what happened today. Have a good day. And then I realized there was some overlap, and that's why you have a longer form daily podcast now. And Back to the Future, I kind of retired. I like the name. That's why we have the Back to the Future voice and text line. So anyway, all that to say, I don't have access to databases full of information and cataloged video clips and cataloged articles about this. Everything I put on here comes from my own research. And the only thing that I remotely found that resembled anything I was doing, there was a book published in the 2000s. I forget the exact day, but it was called This Day in Philadelphia Sports History, or This Day, whatever it was. It was something Philadelphia Sports, or This Day in Philadelphia Sports. And I'm like, all right. So I looked through it, and I use it still to this day as one of my research base. I have a spreadsheet that if you looked at it, you'd probably be like, ew, because of how just ideas just pop into my head and this, that, and the other. So everything I do is through my own sweat, hard work, whatever you want to call it. So I don't have a catalog of stuff from ESPN and Fox and CBS, NBC. So I don't have that. So imagine my surprise yesterday when I'm not going to mention this site's name because I don't think they deserve to get the credit right now. And I'm not besmirching them because I actually enjoy this site a lot. I read it. Sometimes I get some ideas from it, but for the most part, I get some news and I enjoy reading it. So imagine my surprise when a revamped newsletter or whatever I'm reading in my email, I see that they have This Day in Philly Sports History. Not Philadelphia sports, not anything else. This Day in Philly Sports History. Obviously, the font is different, this, that, the other. There was nothing. I did so much extensive research, nothing even remotely close to that anywhere. So, obviously, you're listening out there. You know who you are. You're listening. That's fine. Use my stuff. Now, I'm not saying yesterday was a one-off and the day before was also a one-off because it was World Series based. Everybody knew yesterday was the anniversary of the 2008 Phillies. Everybody knew because I saw it at multiple different places as well. It was Game 1 of the 2009 World Series. That I'm not saying you're stealing the actual content, but to use a heading and a section in your newsletter that is 100% mine without giving me credit for it is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't have, like my job isn't in the media, so I don't have those connections. So everything I've built here, I've built on my own. I've built this on my own. I've made the connections. I've gotten in and working now with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, which has opened up so many doors to me. Doors that like the 13-year-old in me, like 13-year-old Jim would have been like, oh my God, that's awesome. So I don't care that you're using my stuff. Please, just credit me. Like, I've made jokes before about Sheila Wacko doing the Tuesday whatever spotlight or whatever she does on trying to bring a positive spin to things. I do. I don't think she is. Maybe she is. I don't know. I joke around about that. I joke around about the midday show on WIP, always stealing my question of the day. I don't know if they do or not. I don't know. But this was 100% blatant, and there is nobody that's going to tell me that you did not get that idea from me. Which, again, I know this podcast is unique. I do this day, and I've evolved it to include sort of the state, and I say this all the time, the state of Philly sports. I like to do the fun things. We've done the nickname tournament. So if I see like the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament or Lovable Losers or anything like that, then I know you're just stealing my shit. And again, use it. It is what it is. It's history. It happened. You can't do anything about it. Just give me the credit for it. Or better yet, contact me. I can help contribute. I'm looking to expand. I've made it perfectly clear. I'm transparent on here. That's my ultimate goal, is to turn this into something that is a segment either on the radio, TV, both. Your site would be perfect for this. I think this could be a good partnership. I have everything you need. And I think the difference is, for me, it's not just about the events in Philly sports history. And I'm kind of been working on some projects with the Hall of Fame that I can't talk about yet, but a lot of those projects I'm doing, I want to tell the story about the event, tell the story about the player or the team, whatever it is. So that's what I try to do here. It's not just like the Phillies won the World Series. Yesterday, I mentioned it in passing because I spent so much time on it during our Red October focus. That's why I didn't talk that much about that. But like today, we're going back to 1983, and I'm talking about an Eagles game. And what that's going to do, I'm telling the story behind that. Why am I talking about this? Not just, boom, this is what happened, here was the score. So again, I'm fine with you using my stuff. Just give me the credit. Send me some traffic that way too. Or better yet, like I said, and I will be reaching out to you today because I think there is I was pissed yesterday, I'm not going to lie. But I think there is a way for me to help contribute. I don't need to be on your payroll. Just give me the credit. Send some traffic this way. But like, I'm not mentioning the site right now because I was highly, highly irritated yesterday. Because like I said, I did so much research on the title of this podcast and what it was going to look like. And knowing that there was nothing out there other than a book. And there's this day, I've seen sites and I use them for research purposes as well. I also use Ray Didinger's Eagles Encyclopedia right here. So I have my own resources. So I know there's this day in Flyers history, this day in Phillies history. Not so much for the Eagles and Sixers, but there's a this day in NBA where they just list what happens, and then I do the research and tell the story behind it. So again, I think there's a good partnership that we could do there. But just give me the credit. Just don't steal my shit and then put it out there like you're the greatest thing for coming up with this. I will be monitoring it. So if there's starting to be some overlap, luckily I think they come out at the same time. So I don't know if the content is going to be the same. But man, I put too much work into this to just have you steal it and put it out there as your own. Just give me credit. Just say, link it to me, reach out to me. I tell you all the time how to reach out to me. So that to me is extremely, extremely irritating. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I apologize for starting off a Wednesday like that, but man, just had to put that out there and vent. And it also is a good, because if we have some new listeners, it gives you the backstory about sort of what this is. And again, like I don't have like the Kelsey brothers. I don't have the Swifties. I don't have NFL money to back me. So I work full time. This is something I believe in. I believe in this concept. I believe that there's a market for this. It's something I enjoy doing. I have a journalism degree. So for said site, it's not like I'm some schmuck sitting in my mom's basement. I have a journalism degree from Temple. Just things didn't work out for whatever reason. But I have it. So it's not like I'm just some schlub off the street. Like I have a background in this. But I work full time. And like it was a shot in the face to me. Like it just was disappointing. And I know the legal, I kind of explored that. There's nothing I can do that way. But this day in Philly sports history is mine. This is my creation, and just give me the credit for it. That's all I'm asking. All right, sorry about that. I wasted 10 minutes of your day. But quick housekeeping notes. Follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont, Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, which will have all of this day in Philly sports history. So you can see I've been doing this for a couple years. And spread the word. If you're listening, we know who you are. Somebody will probably enjoy it. Probably more people than what I even imagined enjoy this. So spread the word. Help us grow this thing. Out-trick the algorithm. Out-trick the big guys in Philly, because I should be flattered. I really should. I should be flattered. I feel I'm on their radar, which is a good thing. But just give me the credit. That's all I ask. Credit it, because I don't want to get into details, but I know from some of the people that work there who I've had relationships with and talked to, they're aware of me. So that just, to me, is a little too close to home. Sheila Wacko doing Tuesday Spotlight or whatever it is, midday show, that's just blatant. Absolutely blatant and ridiculous. All right, recap. I completely forgot to go over yesterday's question of the day in all of our Eagles news and Eagles talk. 85% of you did say that Jalen Hurts was the GOAT of the game. Hard to argue, hard to disagree with that whatsoever. Thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. Yesterday's question of the day, I asked you, have the Eagles turned the corner? And 75% of you said yes. Nobody said no. But there was quite a few people that wrote in or voted when they were on Twitter that said they need to see more. And I'm kind of in between the yes and need to see more. So I think they've turned the corner. The question now is going to be whether they can keep it consistent. And I went over the schedule yesterday. Things seem to be lining up good for them. So we got that going for us. But thank you again for participating in the question of the day. There'll be another one here later in the show. Back to the Future voice and text line is 267-495-8531. Get that, anything else Philly sports related off of your chest, because it's a cleansing Wednesday. Let's call it that. Cleansing Wednesday. I got that off my chest. I feel better. I'm still angry, but I feel better. All right, it is Eagles-Jacksonville week. The Jaguars are coming to Philly Sunday afternoon. Kelly Green Day, always a fun day. Dougie P making his return. And I'm sure, if I know Philly fans, I'm sure he'll get a nice little ovation when he's introduced. I mean, after all, the man has a statue outside of the stadium. But Dougie P's coming back. Probably could be coaching for his job. Eagles opened at 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. Not really sure yet where I'm leaning for this game. Just kind of really started to dive into it. Again, I don't have people doing that for me. I kind of do the own research here. But a couple quick notes and things about the Eagles. They did finish October with no turnovers on offense, which if you'd have said that at the end of September after that last game, the Tampa Bay game, that the Eagles would be turnover free in October and actually have a positive turnover differential, I don't think any of us would have believed it. So kudos to them for getting it fixed during the bye week. And then just a little bit more on Quinyon Mitchell. I saw this stat a couple different places yesterday, and I mentioned it the other day, but really this one, I saw somebody tweet it out that it's just reiterates and emphasizes how great of a job he's done. He's lined up so far this year against Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Malik Neighbors, Drake London, Amari Cooper. Some of the top, and if you play fantasy football, those are some of the top heading into the season fantasy wide receivers. All of them combined have 9 catches for 82 yards when lined up across from Quinyon Mitchell. The dude has been outstanding, and like I said, I feel as though he's been going under the radar, mostly because you had the whole issues with Sirianni, the struggles of Hurts, and just the questions about the team where he's gone under the radar. This dude has balled out and has had himself a great rookie season. I would have to think that he has to be in the running for defensive rookie of the year. But I saw that and I'm like, man, that's a pretty decent list of receivers that he's basically shut down. 9 catches for 82 yards, no touchdowns for some of the top names in the NFL. And he's only going to get better. I mean, obviously there's mistakes he's making, but he's only going to get better. What a great pick by Howie. Vic Fangio spoke yesterday. He talked about the defensive line playing better and getting more pressure on the quarterback, which has helped the tackling. I know that was an issue, and probably one of the reasons we haven't talked about Q that much this year is because the tackling was so bad early in the season. But he does say that better defensive line play leads to better tackling, which we saw that on full display on Sunday, specifically with Cooper DeJean. That screen pass to Chase could have been bad if he didn't make that tackle, but that's like a tackle we haven't seen in a long time here in Philly. So if that's what it is, let's keep it rolling, Vic. And I thought this was interesting as the trade deadline is approaching. He was asked where he wanted to upgrade things, and he said, I don't. He was very clear that a lot of times those rental players don't necessarily work out. He's been around a long time, and he's seen it. He did throw in the caveat, though, unless it's a young player who you're going to be able to keep under the team's control for long term, he's not for it. So I'm okay with that. But, like, who knows? Like, trades are starting to just come down. I have no idea. I've heard rumblings. I've seen this. I've seen that. But nothing really that nothing more. I mean, it's just rumors at this point. So we'll see what happens. But that does lead to today's question of the day. And my question is to you. Should the Eagles make a trade at the trade deadline? We've seen them work out for them in the past with Jay Ajayi and some of those picks from 2017. We've seen it not work out so well when, oh my goodness, why can't I think of the guy, the receiver they picked up in 2018 who went to Notre Dame, played for, oh my goodness. I'll think of it. But either way, we've seen it not work out. So what do you think? Should the Eagles make a trade at the trade deadline? 267-495-8531 will get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Like I said, get that, anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. Flyers with a big win yesterday. 2-0 up in Boston. Samuel Ersson was outstanding in goal, making 23 saves, some spectacular ones. They definitely played great defense against the Bruins. Bruins are one of the top teams in the NHL. They came out with some good energy. I talked about playing with some jam yesterday. They certainly came out with some jam. They weren't about to get pushed around by the Bruins. And it was a fun game to watch. For a 2-0 game, it was a fun game to watch. So good win, much needed win, a road win over a great team by the Flyers. It's 2 great wins in their past 3 games. So we will take that. Thursday, they are back home to take on the St. Louis Blues. Sixers are in Detroit tonight to visit our old pal, Tobias Harris. Pistons have struggled this year. No real surprise there. No Joe, no PG. As they still are progressing toward getting back. I will say Nick Nurse got a little feisty when asked about their status. And I guess he's probably getting tired of answering it. And I feel as though the organization is putting him in a shitty situation where they're just putting these press releases out, probably telling him don't say anything. And then he's getting peppered with questions about their health. But he got a little feisty and said, look, I don't know. They gave you the message, right? I still feel, and this could be completely wrong, I don't think Joe's hurt. I think this is part of their plan, and they're saying, screw the NBA. Who cares about the fans? We're trying to win a championship. I could be wrong, but they'll both be reassessed later this week. And speaking of that, they were fined $100,000 for inconsistent statements about Joel's health. Well, the Yankees staved off elimination last night in the World Series. But the reason I'm bringing up the World Series and even talking about Phillies is there were rumors floating around yesterday that the Phillies would be very, very in the mix for Juan Soto. I don't know if this is because Juan Soto also is represented by Scott Boras, who is Bryce Harper's agent, or whether he leaked it, or if there's some truth to this. But there is a connection there. Apparently they're friends. They played together in Washington with Trey Turner, so there is that connection. I mean, I've two ways to look at this. One, it's not my money, so if John Middleton wants to spend it, great. I do think Juan Soto does, obviously he's a home run hitter, but he does things that the rest of this team needs to do. He takes walks. I think he led the league in walks this year. He had like 100. I forget what his number was, but it was like a ridiculously high number. He hits for contact. He's solid defensively. I feel as though maybe bringing in somebody that does that, you would hope that would rub off on the other players and not the other way, where the other players would rub off on Soto. So, I mean, we got a couple more days before a lot of the hot stove kicks off and the rumors start picking up. But I don't know. I guess it depends on what else you do with the bullpen, on whether this works and whether you believe that J.P. Crawford is ready. So we'll see. I mean, I wanted to throw it out there because it did happen. And if it has legs, it has legs. If not, we'll see. All right, Today, we're going to go back to 1983. And on this day in 1983, the Eagles lost to the Baltimore Colts 22-21 at the Vet. Mike Quick and Harold Carmichael each caught touchdown passes. Mike Quick's, ironically enough, was a 45-yard touchdown catch thrown by Harold Carmichael. But unfortunately, the Eagles turned the ball over 5 times and then had a chance to win it, but Marion Campbell opted for a 62-yard field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 10, and Tony Franklin's field goal attempt came up way short, and the Eagles lose. It was their 3rd straight loss, which dropped them to 4-5, so they started off 4-2, and things were looking good. They would only win one more game the rest of that season, though, and it was just a brutal season. But I'm bringing this up, and this is where, when I tell you about, I like to tell the story. This is the final time that the Eagles would play the Baltimore Colts because they moved to Indianapolis later that offseason. So this is the last time they played the Colts playing out of Baltimore. Overall, all time against the Baltimore Colts, the Eagles were 4-5. They're 5-4, ironically. They're 6-5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Sorry, math is hard early in the morning. But 1983, that was just a brutal year. They started off 4-2. It was the first of 3 seasons straight of losing by Coach Marion Campbell. It was one bright spot. It was the second year for Mike Quick, and probably could be argued that it was his best overall season. He had 69 catches for 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl, averaged 20 yards a catch. So not bad for Mike Quick. I always liked Mike Quick as a player. And if you're old enough to have seen him play before he was the color commentator for Merle Reese, he was a solid guy, really helped with Randall. But on this day back in 1983, Eagles lose to the Baltimore Colts 22-21 in the last time they ever played together as the last time the Eagles played them as the Baltimore Colts. 83 was just a tough season for the Eagles. They would go on for 2 more straight losing seasons before Buddy Ryan brought in some energy for this team. All right, and now finally today, our 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction spotlight is Eddie Stanky, a baseball player. So Eddie is a very interesting guy, and depending on how close you pay attention to some things, you might know the name Eddie Stanky. He was a Philly native, graduated from Edison High School, played second base for 11 seasons in the majors with the Cubs, Dodgers, Braves, Giants, and Cardinals. Known for being a great defensive player and a very disciplined hitter. It goes back to that again. The Phillies could use a guy like Eddie Stanky on their team. He led the National League in walks 3 times, was top 5 7 times. He led them in on-base percentage, or led the National League in on-base percentage twice, top 5 5 times. He was top 5 in runs scored 7 times. But then defensively, he was top 5 in putouts and double plays 7 times. So just one of those guys that we wish Trey Turner was. But this is all about Eddie. Eddie was a 3-time All-Star, 3-time National League champion with 3 different teams. When he retired, he would spend 7 years as a Major League Baseball manager. Went 466 and 435, so he was above 500. And then from there, he went back to college. He spent 14 years as the head coach of South Alabama, compiled a .714 winning percentage while there, took them to the postseason 5 times. He did, and this was an interesting thing, he came back to manage the Rangers in the late 70s, won his first game, and then resigned because he just was homesick and wanted to go back home to Alabama. His 18 hours as Rangers manager is the shortest stint as a manager in Major League Baseball history. So just a little fun tidbit there. He's in the Mobile, Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. The Southern Alabama field is named after him. It is Eddie Stanky Field. He's in the University of South Alabama Athletic Hall of Fame. But here's the biggest thing and the coolest part about Eddie Stanky. He was a teammate of Jackie Robinson during his rookie year. And Stanky flat out said, I'm not a fan of integration. I'm not happy that my team is doing it. But also promised to have Jackie Robinson's back because, hey, you're my teammate. And if you watch the movie, you know, what am I supposed to do? So he is featured prominently in the movie 42, specifically when they're playing in Philly. He's the guy that was yelling at Ben Chapman, got up off the bench and walked over and started talking to him and arguing with him before the umpire told him to go back. But that is actually based on a true story. He didn't really say much until it got to the point where he did yell at Ben Chapman and tell him to knock it off, basically, probably not in those exact words. But he served as a mentor for Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson credits him for helping him transition to first base. Stanky was second base. That's where Robinson came up. They moved him to first base. But Stanky was very, very instrumental in that whole transition. And again, really stuck up for Jackie Robinson. Even though it went against, right or wrong, even though it went against his beliefs, stuck up for him because he was his teammate. And like I said, that is featured in the movie 42. So with all of those accolades, Eddie Stanky on November 7th will take his place among the all-time greats in Philadelphia sports when he is inducted into the 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction class. Eddie Stanky, baseball player, baseball manager, coach, and proponent for Jackie Robinson, who stuck up for him against Ben Chapman when he came to Philadelphia, and he caught a little bit of flack, or I shouldn't even say a little bit, a lot of flack from Ben Chapman, but Stanky had his back, and that is featured in the movie 42. On this day in 1983, Eagles lost to the Baltimore Colts 22-21, the final time they played them as the Baltimore Colts. They would play them, ironically enough, the next year as the Indianapolis Colts, but Mike Quick had himself a game. Harold Carmichael caught a touchdown pass, threw a touchdown pass, and the Phillies just could not overcome the 5 turnovers. We'll have more on the Sixers-Pistons tomorrow. Flyers look to keep it rolling. And again, if you're going to use my stuff, just give me credit. That is all I ask for. I put too much work and time and effort into this for you to just steal my shit. So just give me credit. That's all I ask for. Sorry for the long one today, but I feel therapeutic. Sometimes you just got to get it off your chest. If you want to get anything Philly sports related off your chest, call or text the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. And let me know, should the Eagles be active at the trade deadline? Then go to Philly Goat, buy those coolers, are phenomenal. Get your Eagles gear. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. And then check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. New football episode drops tomorrow. The final baseball episode drops on Friday. And they're working on a college sports one, so stay tuned for details on that. And with that, this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for October 30th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. And until next time, give me credit for my shit.